Hey Jordan, what's your favorite non-horror game? What are you doing here? I'm asking questions. You're asking questions? Yes. My favorite non-horror game. Oh God, don't do this to me. Why do you guys do this to me? Don't ask me things like that. You know, whenever I try to nail down what I think my favorite video game of all time is, it usually comes down to 4 things. Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, Yume Nikki, Silent Hill 2, and Yoshi's Island. I think those are my absolute favorites. Now only one of those is technically a horror game, but all of them are dark. And each and every one could be considered haunting or scary in one way or another. Except for Yoshi's Island.
When I was young, like really young, the very first game I ever owned, on the very first console I ever owned, was Yoshi's Island for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. And oh, was Yoshi's Island a wonderful thing to grow up with.
No, I'm bleeding, I can't do this. I always bleed when I play this game. I'm done. I'm done, I can't do this. I'm canceling YouTube. YouTube's canceled. All of YouTube.
I imagine if you're watching this channel, more likely than not, you probably have a game from your childhood. Maybe more than one game from your childhood, so special and perfect to you that you would actually consider it timeless. And by timeless, I mean like, a game that doesn't age, doesn't change, doesn't wane or fade in its beauty no matter when you look at it or how many times you look at it. Everyone has a game like that, right? Well, I do. And that game for me is definitely Yoshi's Island. Yoshi's Island makes me cry when I play it. It's timeless to me, not only for the reason of being my very first game, but also for reasons that I think are arguably all its own. I feel like this game went out of its way to be timeless, actually. It obviously wanted to be something special that would last forever. And you can totally tell that by its innocent look, its childish crayon-like graphics, its soundtrack that feels like a constant soft lullaby, and most importantly, its story. Yoshi's Island was the first Mario game to even have a story. It was the first one to have an opening cinematic at least, and care about its story, even if only slightly. It basically follows Mario as a baby, being carried by a stork with his brother across the night sky. Something goes wrong, however, and the stork gets attacked by Kamek the Magikoopa. Baby Luigi gets kidnapped, Mario falls out of the sky, and somehow he ends up falling on the back of Yoshi down below on Yoshi's Island, who vows with his fellow Yoshi clan to take the baby back to rescue his brother. And yes, that's about it. It's not a big story, but it's presented in a big cinematic way. And it's also a prequel. Plus it's cute! And yeah, if you're gonna make this the prequel, the beginning of all Mario games, you better make it something special. Something a child could grow up with and never forget. And that's what it was for me.
Jordan likes baby games. Excuse me? I didn't say anything. Can you just not talk? I'm trying to make a video. You're cute. What? You're cute. I like the way you look. So anyway.
As you guys know, I'm a total sucker for art design in games. I love pixel art especially, and I'm always one to absorb atmosphere, graphics, and backgrounds much more than I absorb gameplay or anything else. And Yoshi's Island was the very first game I ever remember doing that with. I think that's one of the reasons I'm so nostalgic about it. I used to stare at Yoshi's Island's backgrounds, stare at its sprites, stare at all its cute little enemies, and I just get lost in the world for hours and hours every time I sat down to play it. The game had such visual charm. I mean, first of all, you've got the art style, which is like straight out of a children's coloring book, something no other mainstream game would have ever dared to do at the time. But you've also got loads of personality inside that crayon coloring book world. Just look at all the adorable things living in it. You've got cute little lantern ghosts living in the caves and lighting up the dark, cause They're little lantern ghosts. You've got big chomp chomps that try to chomp you up, but then they don't chomp you up because they totally miss their target and break their poor little teeth on a hard surface. You've got slimy little slimes that slime around, hanging on the ceiling, crawling on the ground. Oh, and you've also got this guy. I like this guy. I don't know what's up with him, but I like him. He's got a heart with hair on it. Oh, speaking of this guy, actually, take a look at the background behind him. See how the wall is all broken up and crooked in a weird way? That's the stuff I'm really talking about. That's what I would stare at endlessly when I was a kid. The details in the background. The backgrounds in this game weren't just cute, they were beautiful. I mean, just look at those waterfalls. Look at those rocks. Look at those autumn trees. Those sunsetty stars. That icy cave. That misty cave. That jungly cave. Actually, this jungly cave is another good example of what I'm talking about too. Like, see those glowy plants in the background? Notice how there are like glass windows on the wall? And how you can like see the stars outside behind those glass windows? I mean, God, playing this game was like being in a dream. I used to stare at those cave backgrounds and wonder like how tall the rocks were. I wondered if that was supposed to be the sky above them. I used to stare at this background and wonder if those were like the stars on the ground. Or like, what about this? What's that stuff back there? Why is this game so pretty? Seriously, just like Sonic the Hedgehog or Donkey Kong Country or Super Metroid, Yoshi's Island was one of the first children's games to really prioritize and respect its art style as something important and significant. And it totally freaking captivated me as a child. Like, you know how everyone was freaking out when New Super Mario Bros. U came out because it had, like, a Vincent Van Gogh level? And everyone was like, yay, Vincent Van Gogh level, Starry Night, so original. Yeah, well, guess what? Yoshi's Island had a freaking Van Gogh level. Yeah, nobody cared about that. Except for me, because I love Yoshi's Island.
But see, it isn't just the art design or the backgrounds that make this game good. No, this game is good. Like, actually good in ways that I can thoroughly defend.
We all know how perfectly programmed, polished, and hard to criticize most Nintendo games are already. I mean, Nintendo's responsible for games like Ocarina of Time, the original Metroid, Kirby, Pikmin, Super Mario World. Just wonderful titles that feel like they're as perfect as they'll ever need to be. But you know what? I think Yoshi's Island is better. I think it's the best game Shigeru Miyamoto's ever made, hands down. A lot of this I can credit to its simplicity. Like, I'm not saying it's bigger or more grand than a game like Ocarina of Time, because it's not. See, Ocarina of Time is complex, but because it's complex, there's a lot more to screw up about it. Ocarina of Time couldn't have been made perfect. At least, not at the time they made it. It has flaws. It has aged, regardless of perhaps being the best game of its time, or the best game of all time to some people. But Yoshi's Island? I don't think it can age. Thanks to its simplicity, the gameplay of Yoshi's Island is perfectly designed. I don't think there's a single flaw I've ever been able to find in it. Yoshi's jump is smooth, functional, and organic. The enemies are varied, perfectly arranged, and all doing individual, unpredictable little things of their own. The music is great. The bosses are challenging, epic, and unique. Seriously, you like fight a boss on the moon in this game. It's 2D Mario Galaxy in the year 1995. Oh, and most impressively of all, the game pretty much never repeats itself. Ever. Like, every level in the game is different. Each stage introduces a new thing. A new environment, a new enemy, a new challenge. Like, in one level you'll have monkeys. In one level you'll have Yoshi getting high on psychedelic drugs. One of my favorite levels in the game is the stage that pops up near the end. At the end of the game, Yoshi gets transported to another dimension, where the island becomes dark, empty, and dead. And the first level of that place is just this boneyard. And it's the only level in the game where the cave music actually plays outdoors. And God, it still just makes me cry. Cry. Cry, 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 cry. Oh, and don't even get me started on the incredible final boss. Actually, no. No. I'm not even gonna talk about it. Another video, another time. Too much. To be frank, there's no easy way to describe why this is my favorite non-horror game. But it is my favorite non-horror game. Sort of, anyway. Abe's Odyssey is my favorite non-horror game. Yume Nikki is my favorite non-horror game. But Yoshi's Island is the only game I love that much that isn't scary whatsoever. This is my personal game. My initial game. The first game I ever owned that I could completely call mine. You know, I actually even used to talk to Yoshi's Island. Seriously, I would talk to it. Like I used to give the enemies little voices. I used to give Yoshi a little voice. I like made up dialogue in my head. I literally talked to the screen. I was a very lonely little kid at times, and in a lot of ways, this game was my friend.
Jordan, do you ever wish you were a child again? Yes, me too. Although I never was one, I am a skeleton. Oh god, I miss it so much. Oh, don't cry! Come cuddle me. No! Come here, give me some cuddles. Leave me alone. Come here, you tasty little urchin. Leave me alone. Come here, you fat little slumber party. Oh my god.